Let's do it.
Rolls out to the right. 5 seconds to go in the first half. Dante fires deep to the left. Moss caught it at the 11, but now he pitches it to Mo Williams. Touchdown! You gotta be kidding me!
All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Climbing the Pocket podcast. I am your host, Jason Brown. You can find me on Twitter at BrownJason, and joined once again by the full crew. We took a little bit of time off, a little time to mourn, the season that was, take a little break, a little exhale from, Vikings football. I mean, we know JR didn't take a break from football, but a little break from Vikings football, recharge the battery a little bit, and now we're back. And so, without further ado, we'll introduce the crew. QB1, JR, what's going on, my man? Taking a break from the podcast circuit to come back and talk to the boys.
Yeah, man. Happy to be back. There's no place like home. So, I'm happy to be back.
Yes, sir. And we are happy to have you. And fresh off the plane and maybe straight to the doghouse, we got our man, wide receiver 1. What's going on, Miles?
Yeah, got a little bit of that, jet lag. Wife's already mad at me. So I'm back. So
we'll make efficient use of time here. How's Teddy doing, though? How's Teddy?
Teddy's good. Teddy missed me from what it seems like, so that's good.
That's good.
He's getting big. He's like 73 pounds or something like that. So
man.
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's a big softy, though.
Big boy. And we do have to keep things moving along because the hardest working man in sports and entertainment in the Twin Cities, we got Saxy Prince, multitasking, getting ready for a gig while he's on with us today. What's going on, Saxy Prince?
Yeah, what's up, y'all? Yeah, I'm currently getting dressed as we speak. So, if I cut off for a second or whatnot, just put on my clothes and whatnot. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Saxy Prince, as per usual, he's gonna do some podcasting with us. Probably go pick up a ride on Uber on his way down to the studio to record some music. Never stops. But we're going to switch up the segment a little bit today because, Prince is multitasking. And I'm going to flip it to JR because I think JR's got a question that he wanted to ask.
So this is a question that I really kind of thought out for a little while. And y'all know I'm not a big movie guy like that. So I kind of catered it to y'all's arena. So here's the question. If you were starting an NFL franchise with any fictional football player from a movie, who would it be?
Oh, man. Well, you got to go first, man.
So mine is Bobby Boucher, the water boy. That's my guy.
I love it.
He's just relentless. He's not going to know how much money he's being paid. Let's just be honest. He wasn't the sharpest knife in a drawer. So we probably can get him for cheap, even though we do have the rookie scale. But anyway, that's a subject for another day. Just relentless, just loves football, loves his mama too. But he's a guy I'd love to build my defense around. So the water boy, Bobby Boucher, would be my guy.
All right, I like that one. How about you, Miles? What you going? Fictional football character to start your team?
Oh, I was trying to think about this. Come back to me. Let me.
Okay. All right. Saxy Prince, what you got for us, man?
Well, I was just actually looking up.
Snap. I got it.
Okay, go ahead, Miles.
Never mind.
Give me a second.
All right, Miles is back.
I told you this was a great question.
What's going on, Miles?
It's got to be Julius Campbell from Remember the Titans. I know he's, I mean,
keep going with it, man.
He's an outside linebacker who's he's like Anthony Barr light, you know what I'm saying? Like rush the passer, outside linebacker. He's tall, maybe a little leaner, but he's that type of athlete that you want rush getting after the quarterback. So, and he's got that heart, so I'm all about it.
Okay, Saxy Prince. I think it's your turn. Miles might want to hop back in, but I think right now it's your turn.
I'm looking for his name actually right now.
If you don't know his name, he can't be a man. You can't start your franchise if you don't know the name.
Come on, man.
No, come on, y'all. But he played the. I'm actually gonna go with another Remember the Titans guy. He actually played the quarterback. He had like the really long blonde hair, whatever. The reason why Sunshine. That's what it was. The reason why I'm picking
quarterback, Sexy Prince. What about the brand?
What about Rev? Oh,
I'm disappointed. I am disappointed in Prince.
He cut out. What about Rev?
I am shocked though. Sexy Prince picking a quarterback like that is completely off brand for him.
God,
completely off brand.
My bad, y'all.
Are you back?
Disappointed, and I can't believe you skipped over Willie Beeman.
Yo, you didn't, but you didn't pick Brian Gosling's character.
No, because he was a complete liability in coverage. So the reason here's why I picked Sunshine, right? So I don't know if you guys remember that movie. Remember the time it's on the final play? They called I think they called an end around play or whatever the case is. Sunshine, lead blocker, takes out 2 guys for the go-ahead touchdown for the win. That's the kind of guy I want to start my franchise with. That's that Marcus Mariota. I'm gonna throw a block to win the championship for my team. So I'm starting it with Sunshine.
Okay. All right. Well, JR kind of just took mine yelling at Sexy Prince. I mean, it was, because, we are fans of one Teddy Bridgewater over here. And since, he was in the scouting report for Teddy coming out, Willie Beeman was probably going to be my guy. But then, since we're going another way, because, we also love Case Keenum on this podcast sometimes. And so I'm going to go another way. And I'm going to go with Shane Falco from the Replacements. As my comp for Case Keenum and my other quarterback who I might start my franchise with because he turned it around at the end. He got it figured out after years of maybe just being eyed. But that was a good question, JR. I like that one.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, we might have to put that up as a poll to get some folks to weigh in on this one here. But as we move things along,
hold up. You don't want Orlando Jones from the wide receiver, the deep threat? Just give him the stick him and he good to go.
Oh man, Darnell Jefferson, Alvin Mack. I mean, there's so many good ones you can go with, man.
Right, Tidwell,
sir.
Gary McGuire.
Tidwell, yes.
Yeah. Tidwell was another good one. Yeah, man. We might have to set up a bracket or something. This is a good one here. You can keep going forever on this one.
We need to do a mock draft. That's what we need.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, let's turn the corner a little bit here. It's the off season, and hearts were broken all around. Vikings Twitter, Vikings fandom earlier this week, where the man who everyone, even Judd Zulgad, Matthew Collar, I think every person on Vikings Twitter had got themselves ready to start the Alex Smith era in Minnesota, and Washington stole him from us. But they paid a lot. So, it's been a little while since we got together. JR, I'll kick it off with you here. I guess, what were your thoughts when you saw that trade kind of randomly come across? And I guess, what are your thoughts on the price, both in trade and in price for Alex Smith?
I thought it was shocking, honestly. And I thought it was a reach. Just giving Alex Smith $71 million guaranteed, and then you're giving up a very valuable young player in Kendall Fuller, who is arguably one of the better nickel corners in all of the NFL. And my whole issue with it was, why were you so comfortable giving that money to Alex Smith and not to Kirk Cousins? Because, they're basically the same guy, honestly, but Kirk Cousins is 4 or 5 years younger than what Alex Smith is. So it just didn't really make a lot of sense to me. And signing him to that long-term deal at 34 years old, the deal didn't make a lot of sense to me from the Redskins standpoint. But from the Chiefs standpoint, on the flip side, I thought it was a great deal for them. Cornerback was a big need for them. And they got a great young player in Kendall Fuller. And now they free up $17 million in cap room. And the show is now the Patrick Mahomes show, which is what they wanted coming into next season in 2018 anyway. So, and they also get a draft pick as well, which is great.
Yeah, and I know we had lots of kind of back and forth of it, cracking jokes and things about it. But Miles, I guess what's your take on this trade? And I guess most people have been really roasting Washington for overpaying on both sides of this. I guess, can you come up with an argument from the Washington perspective that maybe explains why or the reasons they did what they did?
Well, let's get technical real quick. Technically, this trade is not a real thing. but I'm just playing. Just because the league year hasn't started yet, but I'm just playing. Yeah, I think a couple of things for Washington. I think the biggest thing is when they decided to franchise tag Kirk Cousins for the second time last year in back-to-back years. I think that was the end between the relationship between Washington and Kirk Cousins, just for the fact that, the year before that, I think he had a really good season, and he was still in his early, mid to late 20s, hitting that prime years, and they still decided they wouldn't commit to him long term. Again, it might say a little bit more about Kirk Cousins, but I'm not sure. And then for them to decide to, franchise tag him again, I think it drove Kirk Cousins' asking price to Washington, I think, up even higher than it might have potentially been had they decided to just go with a regular long-term extension, or maybe they just never could come to a full agreement on an extension. I'm not sure, but I think a rationale to kind of go with for Washington here is, you're about to lose a franchise-type quarterback. You're in a position in the draft where you'd have to give up a lot to trade up to go get one of the top tier guys in the draft, the top 5 picks, and especially since a lot of those teams are QB needy anyways, they decided, let's go do the next best thing and go get our quarterback, whether it's through free agency or whatever. Let's not even wait till free agency. Let's just go get our guy now. And they liked enough from what they saw from Alex Smith, because they had to have done their homework, and they decided, let's give up a second-round pick, or is it a third? It sounds like a third, and we're pretty heavy at defensive back, so I still don't agree with the person that they gave up, but we have we're pretty loaded at the defensive back position in terms of what we have. So let's sweeten the deal a little bit let's go get our quarterback, because we know how important this position is. He had a career year last year. And let's extend him to a long-term contract, and then be patient with going to get our young up-and-coming quarterback to succeed, Alex Smith. But let's sign him to a long-term contract to let him know that he's our guy for the foreseeable future. So I think how many QB needy teams there are in the NFL right now, Washington decided, we're not going to wait. We're not going to, try to overpay in a free agent or anything like that, or try to overpay in the draft. We're just going to go get a guy that we know is a really good quarterback and who had a top 10 season this year, and we're going to go make him our guy instead of waiting around and, for the price point to potentially be higher. So they decided to make the move now, and I kind of agree with that sense of it, of not waiting around.
Yeah, and so Saxy Prince, I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit here. We're going to go off the show sheet, because one of the things JR just said was, Alex Smith and Kirk Cousins are the same guy. So I go and I'm looking up to kind of, compare, their, career stats to one another. But then there were some other names that I threw in. I obviously threw in the 3 quarterbacks that, the Vikings have had over the past couple seasons. But then Matthew Collar wrote an article that received quite a bit of backlash, scorn from Vikings faithful, in which his kind of number one non-mainstream option for the Vikings was Tyrod Taylor. And so as I'm looking here at a comparison of, all these guys, and, passer rating is not the greatest stat. Obviously, we know that, and take it with a grain of salt. But when you're kind of ranking them, Kirk Cousins has the highest passer rating, but Tyrod Taylor's number 2 when you're looking at their careers, followed by Alex Smith, then Teddy Bridgewater, Case Keenum, and Sam Bradford. You're looking at yards per attempt. Again, you have Kirk Cousins number 1. In this one, Teddy Bridgewater actually jumps up to number 2. Sitting in number 3 is your man Tyrod Taylor. Adjusted net yards per attempt, Kirk Cousins again, number 1. Number 2, Tyrod Taylor. Why do people seem to dismiss or dislike or hate the idea of Tyrod Taylor as a potential stopgap quarterback for the Vikings, while embracing Alex Smith, who, when you look at their careers, has been not that much better, if you are even going to say that he's better than Tyrod Taylor based on how they performed on the field?
Well, I mean, it's still a stigma that exists with, athletic quarterbacks who can also, who can run as well as, they're throwing the football. So I think
But
Tyrod
Alex
Taylor
Smith, but Alex Smith is also an athletic quarterback. I mean,
yeah,
he tested like Cam Newton coming out.
Black quarterbacks who can run are not treated the same way that white athletic quarterbacks who can run. They're just looked at as different. There are a lot of people who still don't respect Russell Wilson. There's a lot of people who, again, they don't respect Colin Kaepernick. They don't respect Tyrod Taylor. And I mean, I've been a fan of Tyrod Taylor for a little bit. I think, Jason, you were the kind of one who kind of hinted at him a while back. Given the situation that he was in, Buffalo lost a lot of weapons this year to St. Louis or Los Angeles, excuse me. And he was still able, I think, to produce at, what he was probably like league average when you break down a lot of his numbers. And when I look at those kinds of quarterbacks, and I think that's partially why I like Teddy Bridgewater. When I look at a guy who, if you take away weapons, if you take away something that he can actually work with, and he's still able to perform at roughly around league average, then I kind of want to see him in a system that, cater towards his needs, as well as he's around weapons that he can actually succeed in. And my biggest thing for athletic quarterbacks too is like the defenses are getting faster, right, at an astronomical rate compared to tackles and offensive lines. So I think having another kind of threat at quarterback, not just to be able to throw the football, but be able to have the mobility, really just opens up what offenses can do, and how opposing defenses really have to try to game plan. Jason, I think you said it off air. It's really, really hard to game plan for some of these athletic quarterbacks that exist, and they are quarterbacks who can run, not running quarterbacks. And it's just easier to put in your mind someone like Alex Smith, who I think he's improved a lot as a passer, as well as Kirk Cousins. But I think it's, when we look at guys like Aaron Rodgers, we don't necessarily think about him as a running quarterback, but I mean, he's killed us time and time again for running. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of factors that play into this, and people aren't always honest with themselves with how the perception of it. But I'm a fan of Tyrod Taylor because I think that if the Teddy Bridgewater thing doesn't work out, he would be a perfect quarterback to bring here for a couple of years while you're grooming a new guy.
Awesome. I guess move it along, because obviously I guess the more mainstream take now is that Alex Smith is off the market, and the next name that's out there is Kirk Cousins. I mean, that's the guy. He's the one. He's the person that everyone wants. And so, JR, you are our resident quarterback here, I guess. What are your thoughts on Kirk Cousins, just kind of the player, and what tier of quarterback would you put him in?
Like I told you guys, I'm a big fan of Kirk Cousins as far as his on the field ability. He's obviously not in that elite category, but I think he's in that top 10 to 12 range. So he would probably be in that third tier, not the 1 through 5 or 6 through 10, but he's probably that 11, 12 to 13 range. I mean, he's good, guys. I love Kirk Cousins. But the thing you have to understand about Kirk Cousins is that he has to have adequate surroundings in order to succeed. And I think his supporting cast in Washington is vastly underrated in what he had to work with. Now, last year was sort of an outlier as far as the supporting cast that he did have. They suffered some injuries, but before last season, he had one of the better supporting casts in the NFL as far as weapons on the perimeter. He had Deshaun Jackson, he had Pierre Garçon, he had Jameson Crowder, and Jordan Reed in spots. He's never had, well, I don't know Washington's actual statistics in the running game, but I'm sure they've probably been middle of the pack, considering that they do have some good pieces up front, Trent Williams and Brandon Scherf. So I'm sure their running game hasn't been pedestrian. They haven't had a huge name in the backfield. It's been musical chairs in their backfield as far as who the actual guy is back there, but I'm sure they've probably been middle of the road as far as a running game. Now, on the flip side of that, Kirk Cousins on the Vikings. It makes all the sense in the world. This by far will probably be his best supporting cast from an all-around team standpoint. Minnesota obviously has an elite defense. Diggs, Thielen, and Rudolph will be good weapons on the perimeter. And you have a good backfield, whether it's Jerick McKinnon and Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray, whichever of those guys is the lead guy next year. So I like Kirk Cousins. I think it will be a great fit in Minnesota. The one thing that does give me pause about the situation is the financial side of it. He's going to command $28 to $30 million. His reps have already come out and said that they want to at least rival or even exceed what Matthew Stafford got, and he got a 5-year, $135 million deal. And I'm sure that's the range that Kirk Cousins is looking for. Yes, he said money does not matter to him. He wants to win. But at the end of the day, I just don't believe that whenever a guy is hitting the unrestricted free agent market for the first time, and being that Kirk Cousins is 30, he's no guaranteed to get another big deal like this. So I think he's going to look to cash out and go to the best opportunity and where the financial money is the best for him. So I like Kirk Cousins, but the financial side just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. All right. So Miles, friend of the show, friend of the website, Luke Braun, he kind of went on a bit of an anti-Kirk Cousins mini rant, we'll say, on Twitter, pointing out some things, using the Pro Football Focus QB catalog, and pointing out that when you look at some particular stats, like let's say we look at adjusted completion percentage, Case Keenum's actually better than Kirk Cousins. Or when you look at deep passing, Kirk is just, he's better than Case was this past season, but not by a ton. So I guess, what are your thoughts on the argument that even with Kirk Cousins might be the name, but as you start to go and maybe look deeper into things, is he really that different than what Case Keenum is?
I think the biggest thing that maybe for me that I would kind of argue against that is the fact that, we've seen Kirk Cousins do it over more than one season. We've seen him do it on a bit more of a consistent scale than Case Keenum has. We've seen Kirk Cousins run an offense, that's tailored around providing him weapons, a solid offensive line. So you've kind of seen that. And then I think as a fan and as a trying to be a little less, homerish about the move and situation, you try to, find a perspective about it, but a different perspective. But like with Kirk Cousins, he's arguably one of the best quarterbacks to hit free agency in since like Drew Brees, maybe. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I have the names, but I think that kind of is an intriguing move for people. People want to make that splash move. People know that, we're kind of a top, we're a consistent top 10 to 12-ish quarterback range away from being consistent Super Bowl contenders, which, we saw in 1 year with Case Keenum, with everything we had this year, that we can get to the NFC Championship. But I think folks are like, maybe maybe Kirk Cousins can take us over that last hurdle to get to that point. So I think that's just the rationale people have. People, they see the big name, they see the stats, and they see all that, and they just get excited about what that could potentially be in a Vikings offense, just because as great as Case Keenum was this last year, and this is volume stats, by the way, that I'm kind of arguing, but like folks would love to see a quarterback in Minnesota throw for 4,200 yards and 30 touchdowns. I know it doesn't equate to wins, but I know folks here would just help validate things for them. Because on the outside they love to look at the volume stats, because that's it's an easier stat to reference. So I think that would excite people a lot. People want to see the full capability of this offense with I think a better version of Case Keenum in a sense. As great as Case Keenum was this last year, I think there definitely were some things that still kind of held him back a bit. So I think people see Kirk Cousins as being that next plateau with this team to take this team over the hump. So I can understand the rationale. Just obviously, like we've said, I think the money's obviously the biggest factor there.
Yeah, and I've also argued on Twitter that using last year as like your one sample on Kirk Cousins isn't fair, as JR alluded to. The weaponry around him was not what it has been in years past. Things weren't great for him, but I think that's also a good place to evaluate a quarterback, because if you're just evaluating them when things are great, you're probably not getting the full picture, because things likely aren't going to be great all the time. But Miles, you raised a really good point that I'll flip to JR first here, because Kirk Cousins has great stats, great efficiency, all of those things you can see. He's been great for a lot of people in fantasy football, which I think we all know helps to shape people's perception of players. But if you go look at, Pro Football Focus, which is, tape evaluation and someone kind of grading him throw by throw, in this past season, Kirk Cousins was ranked right after Andy Dalton and right before Blake Bortles. Obviously, one season, but when you look at kind of how good his stats are and then maybe what his tape is, like, who is the real Kirk Cousins, yeah?
And that's why I say Kirk Cousins goes as his supporting cast goes. You talk about guys like Terrell Pryor, who was a bust for them this year. Vernon Davis wasn't healthy. Jordan Reed can never stay healthy. They just didn't really have any weapons on the perimeter for him. And their running game took a step back as well because their offensive line was so banged up. Scherf was banged up. Obviously, Trent Williams was banged up throughout the year as well. And just when things break down for him or when things go off script and they suffer some injuries, you're just not able to see the full potential of him because he needs that surrounding cast around him to uplift him. And that's not saying Kirk Cousins is a bad quarterback, but he's not a guy that can carry an offense if there's poor surroundings around him like a Drew Brees or an Aaron Rodgers can do. So, and that's what gives me pause about giving him elite quarterback money, because if I'm going to give a guy elite quarterback money, I expect him to carry this offense if it does suffer some injuries or if the lack of talent or if it has a lack of talent on the perimeter. Like we see, I even consider a guy like Russell Wilson to be in that elite category because he has some weapons surrounding him, but his offensive line is always pedestrian, but their offense is always one of the tops in the league. So if I'm going to give somebody that elite money, it would be guys like that and not Kirk Cousins that's so dependent on so many variables around him working out perfectly.
Yeah, man. And to kind of echo the point that Yinker made just a little bit ago when he was talking about, our man Tyrod Taylor, again, one season sample. We already talked about some of the full career numbers, but if we're looking back at last year, we're saying Kirk Cousins, his weaponry was not good. Things around him weren't good. But even if you're just looking at, because, a lot of times people are going to say, well, Tyrod Taylor because of the running, when you look at his pass grade on Pro Football Focus for last year, it was also superior to that of Kirk Cousins. So again, just, surprising to me that, maybe not so surprising, but a little surprising that, folks seem so opposed to the idea of Tygo coming to Minnesota if we were to bring him in as a veteran. But, yeah, I think that's it for that topic. We talked enough about Kirk. Something I guess I feel a little bad bringing this one up because, we took a break from football because of kind of everything that was going on. And, Saxy Prince, you're in the car. I'll start with you on this one because you might be looking out the window to see a little bit of it. But, it's the Super Bowl in Minneapolis.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, man. Like, what's the atmosphere like? Like, how has it been? I know, like, on a lot of the podcasts and everything I listen to, folks have been saying that there was like just a sadness on the city for a little while there. But now that like things have really kicked off and the teams are in town and like all the media and everything else is going on, like, has that changed at all? Do people look like they're embracing it, or is it still just kind of like, I can't believe this is happening in my city after the way that game went?
No, I mean, I think from my perspective, my younger brother's birthday was earlier this week, and we went out to Ruth Chris, and I saw Kurt Warner there, I saw Kyle Rudolph there, and I've seen various pictures on Twitter and stuff about just people you go into the Mall of America, and the media really seems to be kind of embracing our city, and that was kind of like my biggest concern is. I didn't feel like Minneapolis was quite ready as they got closer, but are enjoying it and just, we haven't had this much celebrity, I guess, in one sitting or whatnot. So, I would say, for my feel of everything, it feels like the city's excited. There are events constantly going on. I think people are, in a good mood and, ready for the Super Bowl to happen. I think it's definitely been a kind of an exhausting football season. So I think it's less of, oh, we didn't make it to the Super Bowl sadness. But I mean, I think there is a little bit, like, the season has been really, really long for, the state of Minnesota. So maybe just like some exhaustion that goes along with that. But otherwise, I think everybody's kind of been real excited and whatnot.
How about you, Miles? Where are you at with it? Because I know there was like a hot second there where you were like, man, if I run into any of them Eagles fans in the street, like you were a little pressed for just a little bit after the game. And then, it feels like you then went to work and were like, yo, you need to send me up out of town, and you've been on the road a little bit here. But now that you're back in, in the environment, looking around and stuff, like, how is it dealing with the fact that, you got all these people in the city playing in a game that we let ourselves believe we might be playing in?
So to be honest, where I live in St. Paul, so I haven't really seen it. And where my office is at work, I'm right across the street from the stadium, but it's on the it's like close. It's on the St. Paul side of it. So like, it's not in the heart of downtown. So I'm not really like in it. So I haven't really seen it as much. And I've been gone the last 2 days out of town for work, but in general, I haven't really seen too much. I don't try to venture downtown Minneapolis often anyway. So the only thing I really noticed is just like the how much parking goes up and all the restaurants and stuff like that. But I haven't really seen too much of it. But getting through at the airport, when I just got back, there was like people greeting us, being like, "Welcome to Minnesota," the Super Bowl, all this type of stuff. So that was kind of cool just to kind of see all the cool signage and all the cool decor that they kind of had going on. But I haven't really fully seen everything, and I haven't really ventured downtown. I probably won't.
Yeah, once you get to downtown, I think you start to see a little bit more. You see obviously the Super Bowl like colors and schemes and stuff, and you obviously see like a lot more of the restaurants, trying to cater towards this Super Bowl, advertising and whatnot. Buses have Super Bowl type things, on their signage and stuff. So yeah, it's the city is vibrant. So.
They're embracing it. I think it's really cool. I took the light rail to work yesterday because I had to go to the airport, and I got dropped off right at US Bank Stadium, and all the stuff around it was really cool, except for seeing Eagles and Patriot stuff. On Viking stuff was not cool, but just the atmosphere in general looked really cool, so I like that a lot.
Awesome. Well, enough of that. We won't make you guys tell us too much more about the party going on in the city there. JR, I know, resident football junkie, and while the rest of us may have taken a little bit of a break to exhale and put football a little bit further to the back of our minds, we know you went headlong into all things football, off-season draft and all that. But I know, we haven't talked about it, but I know that you've probably done a little bit of digging, looking into this matchup that is about to happen. So I guess give us your thoughts on the matchup between the Pats and the Eagles and what people really should be looking out for in terms of how these two teams match up.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating matchup. I watched a couple games on both teams. I already had some recent memory from some Philly games due to preparing for the Vikings matchup against them. But it's really a fascinating matchup, and you talk about some really strong minds going against each other. Doug Peterson and Bill Belichick, a mastermind on defense, going against an up-and-coming creative mind in Doug Peterson and Matt Patricia as well. And I'm most intrigued by how he counter-reacts, or what schemes and RPOs does he specialize in against Matt Patricia's defense. That's the biggest matchup that I'm looking forward to. Of course, Tom Brady against their defense is another fascinating matchup. How Josh McDaniels will react to Jim Schwartz's defense. We all know. I actually was listening to, I think it was Peter King, I want to say. I can't remember the exact number, but he said there's a magic number that you have to get as far as pressures on Tom Brady for him to break down. And I can't remember what that exact number is, but I'm sure Philadelphia does have some schemes that they're going to scheme for Tom Brady as far as to get pressure and move him off his spots, because we all know he's not as mobile as he once was. And if you make him move around in the pocket a little bit, you can force him into some bad decisions. Gronk has been cleared, so that's another weapon that they have to prepare for, and I'm sure that they have been preparing for him these past 2 weeks. And I mean, everybody knew he was going to play, even if, he put himself in harm's way. I think he was going to find a way to get cleared for this game because it is the Super Bowl. But anyway, I think another fascinating matchup is the Patriots' weapons on the perimeter against that Eagles secondary and matching up with Gronk. What specific schemes will Jim Schwartz come up with to try to eliminate Gronk and eliminate or even limit Brandon Cooks and Danny Amendola? So there's a lot of fascinating matchups overall, but I'm really intrigued by how these head coaches and coordinators go against each other. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, and you brought up kind of the common narrative that I think we hear a lot, and I think it goes back to probably I guess the first time the Giants took out the Patriots, where they were able to just rush for and beat Brady up, and even still they needed some miraculous things to happen, but they won the game. And since that time, it's kind of galvanized that narrative, which is true. I think for all quarterbacks, you hit them, they don't play as well, but it's really galvanized that narrative that you hit Tom Brady, he's not going to play as well, and you can beat them. But Warren Sharp, who is one of the brightest people who writes and covers and talks about football, he put out a piece that I'll link to in the show notes. But it was a really interesting premise in that if everyone knows how to beat Tom Brady, quote unquote, but Bill Belichick is the greatest coach of all time, do we really think that Bill Belichick is going to let a team beat his team by doing the same thing the Giants did to beat them all those years ago? And it kind of gets into the fact that, the counter that the Patriots have used when they go against teams with really great pass rushes is the halfback pass, and how that is what he kind of sees as being the X factor in this game. I guess, just obviously, not sure if you read the article, but with me just kind of throwing this out for you right now, I guess, what are your thoughts on that analysis, that really the thing that, the Patriots can do to alleviate some of that pressure that, we saw the Eagles can bring with that front four is really to get the running backs involved in that passing game and really try to get matched up on those linebackers from the Eagles?
Yeah, and it makes sense. And I'll definitely make sure to check out that article. And if there is one weak spot on the Eagles defense, I think it is that linebacker core. They don't have a lot of notable names there. Daniil Ellery didn't play against the Vikings, but he's probably one of the better linebackers in that core. Nigel Bradham is a good player, and Michael Kendricks has had a career resurgence this year, and one of the biggest reasons why that defense has taken another step up into the potential elite category. But we all know New England has a plethora of running backs in their backfield, and they all use them in special ways. And we all know Tom Brady is very reliant on running back routes as far as out of the backfield. Deion Lewis is an incredible weapon that they have out of the backfield, and they even incorporate James White and all the other backs that they have in the backfield. And it's kind of like, I kind of compare it to a bullpen and a pitching rotation. It's kind of like whichever guy is hot that day is going to get the ball, and whenever they need another guy, they can just go to the bullpen, depending on the type of team that they're playing and how they can exploit that matchup. That's really who's going to get the ball that day. So I think that's a key matchup to look in on and focus on, how they get the running backs in space and make their linebackers, or force their linebackers to make plays on their running backs in space.
Yeah, man. And, I don't know if you have. Miles, Yinka, have y'all really dug into this matchup at all, or are you just going to kind of tune in and watch as a fan, or are you even watching the game? Like, what's going on with that? We really haven't talked about it. How y'all dealing with the Super Bowl?
Who cares? No, no, I really haven't dove into it. I don't know. It's hard to have a vested interest in like diving deep into a game that like your team's not a part of. We dove into the Eagles, so we kind of know, but I'm curious to see their game plan on offense to kind of see what they do against the Patriots, because we've seen them do, a numerous amount of things. Like they went off cuff against us. We expected them to kind of try to bully ball us, and they spread us apart. And let Nick Foles throw it around the yard. Is that what they do against the Patriots this week in the Super Bowl? I don't know. So that'll be a curious one. And then the obvious one that JR pointed out about is Gronk. Like he's one of the hardest players in the NFL, if not the hardest player in the NFL to kind of defend one-on-one, just because of his size and speed and all that. So I'm just curious to see what the Eagles are going to do.
Okay, and Saxy Prince, did we lose you? Yep, Saxy Prince is gone. He let us know he was going to leave, so we won't blame this one on his interwebs. He actually had, a gig to go to. So he talked to us in the car. He's at the gig, so no more analysis from Saxy Prince. And I'm kind of with Miles on this one. I certainly have not dug deep into these matchups at all. Read some articles here and there, but yeah, don't care enough to really get into this Eagles Patriots matchup. I guess we'll go to the next thing. But I kind of want to ask as well, who you guys actually like? Are you cheering for anyone? Do you have a vested interest in who wins? Like JR, do you care? Because I know that we've seen some things on the social media, Vikings fans, go Pats, which I really don't understand. Are you like where like the Eagles fans were so mean to our fans and they beat us so bad that you're like, you really want the Pats to win? Or is it that you want the team that whooped your behind to end up being the team that wins the tournament? Like who you going for in this one?
Nah, I don't have a horse in this race, but I do want the Eagles to win because of this. My dad, he's an Eagles fan, 58 years old. He's never seen his team win a Super Bowl, and I think that would be a really special moment for him. He's a super diehard Eagles fan. He's a bigger Eagles fan than I am a Vikings fan, believe it or not. He's seen his team get there plenty of times. Broke his heart against the Patriots. I'm not sure exactly what year that was with the whole T.O. and Donovan McNabb Super Bowl. And it would just be a really special moment to see my dad experience the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I want the Eagles to win.
Okay. All right. So just like your pops, you wouldn't pick the team that doesn't win anything either. That makes some sense now. Apple and tree and all that good stuff. So are we doing bold predictions, score predictions? Because like I really would just be like throwing numbers, just throwing stuff out there because I really I have not dug into this at all. I got nothing. Miles, you got anything? I got nothing. JR, what's your bold prediction, your score prediction?
It seems to always be a close game whenever the Patriots do win a Super Bowl. So I think I want the Eagles to win, and that's just with my heart. But my head is telling me that the Patriots are going to win, and I think they'll win, let's say 27-24.
All right. Okay. We'll take that. And we can't wrap this thing up. I mean, JR, you put it out there.
I'll just fade off into the distance.
You're gonna make stuff up.
I'm just gonna fade off.
Miles,
you brought my name up twice, but you didn't ask me any questions.
But you said you didn't care. I didn't want to ask you a question you didn't care. I want you to
just fade.
Nah, bro, you have to answer this question.
I got a Super Bowl prediction.
It's the most important question.
I have a bold prediction.
Waffles or pancakes, though? Because this was out there, and like folks had some strong opinions on this one.
They really did.
People had some really strong opinions on this.
It was a lot to a little.
Yeah,
it was.
So where you at, Miles? Surprised. Waffles, pancakes. What you feeling?
I mean, it's waffles, but like I really like pancakes. But waffles are a lot more versatile. You can do a lot more with them. Like the fried chicken and waffles. I mean, come on now. I think that's like the wrap right there.
Game changer.
But I really like pancakes. I think for me, waffles are like it doesn't just have to be a breakfast food, but pancakes it's breakfast. So I don't know. I like both, but I'm definitely taking waffles. But I'm not gonna hate on pancakes the way some of those savages were destroying it like it was terrible.
The pancake slander was real. Where are you at with it?
Yeah, some people were saying they're nasty when they get soggy. I'm just like, wow.
I mean, they're soggy because you put syrup on them, and syrup is delicious.
Hey, but I do. Do you ever do peanut butter and syrup on your pancakes?
No,
it's bomb.
That is a negative, Miles Gorham.
Is that a Minnesota thing?
No, I learned it in North Carolina, actually.
Oh wow, I've never heard of it.
I didn't learn in North Carolina. I just wanted to throw that at you, just to throw some shade.
Wow.
But I think I just tried it one day and it was good and I liked it. I don't know if you like peanut butter.
I'm a waffle guy personally. I enjoy the pockets on the waffle because they just secure your syrup, and just syrup and your butter are the most important parts, whether it's a waffle or a pancake. I don't like my stuff sliding everywhere. So just having those pockets on the waffle, that just seals the deal for me. And a game changer, like you said already, is you can get so many different sides with waffles, and you can just put it on top. Fried chicken is a great example to have as a side with waffles as well. And I just think that's a game changer. Also, I want to throw this in there. I figured out my bold prediction. Super Bowl MVP, James Harrison.
Woo! Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, Miles, Miles, do you have any upcoming projects that we should be on the lookout for?
No. I've been working on the draft a lot lately. I've been looking at a lot of the college players, and I'm trying to dive into a little bit of the free agency stuff too. So I'm just kind of like,
Receivers.
Yeah, but that's just a given. It's just easy for me.
Why neither of y'all respond to my my Calvin Ridley slander earlier today?
I didn't see it. I've been on a plane. And
I'm tired of the Calvin Ridley.
You were on a plane. But it's got to be a little something. It's just looking at all the old.
What was your slander?
I just saw somebody tweet. It was looking at receivers taken in the first and second round who happened to be real old, and how their performance projected
like Kevin
when they
White?
made it to the league. Pardon me? Yeah, you had Kelvin Benjamin. It was a fantasy related thing. So I think you had Kelvin Benjamin and one other of the people in the list who'd posted wide receiver 1 seasons, and all the rest pretty much were busts. So I don't know.
I have a hard time seeing a wide receiver go in the top 15 picks this year.
Oh, that's bold.
I don't think it's that bold. I say that just because of all the other needs, and I think free agency and stuff like that will just kind of sort that out a little bit for some people.
I think Ridley will go top 15.
Because there are so many good wide receiver 2s, I think teams are going to understand that, and they're going to wait a little bit. Kind of like a running back in a sense that we've seen the last couple of years. People have decided to wait and hedge their bets on some of these, and because you're getting a lot quicker returns on some of these receivers. We won't name the ones that we don't get returns from, but
I'm gonna start calling Miles. His new nickname is Matt Millen because he loves receivers.
Oh no! Oh no!
Man, are you saying I strike out on receivers too?
No,
I'm just messing with you.
You might have to you got to veto that, Miles. You can't let that stick. How about you, JR? We know it. It's draft season, so you probably got about 10 things in your drafts right now. What's the next one we should be looking out for?
Nah, I'm actually just churning out the database right now. I kind of want to wait to release another mock draft until after the combine. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to release one right now because a lot of things are going to change after the combine once I get a good glance at some guys and get some actual measurements and test results. I know a lot of nerds are waiting on these test results from these guys at the combine. So I'm actually taking a more analytical or factoring in some analytical things this year. So I'm looking forward to doing that and factoring it into my draft grades.
Okay. All right. And I guess for both of you guys, Miles, you first, then JR. Quarterback, obviously, biggest question, biggest need for the team as we move forward. What would be the rest of your top 3, Miles, if you were looking at, positions that we need to address right away, be it free agency at the draft or top of the draft if we strike out in free agency?
Definitely 3 tech,
okay.
Defensive tackle. I think that's, if it's not quarterback, obviously if you take quarterback aside, I think that's the biggest need for this team. And then I think we need to add another cornerback and interior offensive lineman would be my top 3, not including quarterback.
Okay. How about you, JR?
Yeah, I'm with that. I think it's too early to talk about the whole quarterback thing because we don't know exactly what the outcome is going to be on whether we need to draft one or not. I still think they need to draft one no matter what. So I'll go ahead and include that in my top 3 needs. And I think either a guard or a tackle. I would probably go with guard because Joe Berger is expected to retire. So I put guard on there, and I would put defensive tackle as the other need.
Okay. All right. And yeah, for me, obviously quarterback is quarterback. It is what it is. But when I went through and and ran the numbers from Pro Football Focus for the last season, I was surprised, with as much as the Vikings offensive line improved, I guess just coming from how terrible it had been in previous seasons, I was surprised that for Minnesota, the 3 worst kind of cumulatively graded position groups for us were each of the positions across the offensive line. So in terms of, I guess, where I would rank what I wanted to do in the offseason, quarterback obviously needs to be figured out first. Tackle would probably be next up, and then I'm riding with Miles there on 3 tech. I think you alluded to it before we played the Eagles, JR, that we were pretty thin at that position even this season, and Tom Johnson is even older than he was this past year, so we're definitely gonna need to do something about that. So that's where I'm at with it. And I think with that, I think we covered everything we want to talk about today, plus some extra stuff. I think that'll be it. We'll probably start the music right around now. Gentlemen, it's been too long. Good to be back on with you guys. And listeners, apologies for taking a little bit of time away, but we are back. We will be on a more regular recording and podcast release schedule now as we get into the off season. And we'll talk to you again soon. Have a good one.